Oh, yeah? Oh, thank you. Oh, I thought you were trying to write structures.
You gonna scribble?
I should do the same for Android.
I got you.
Ah, thank you, thank you.
Very important.
Now I know how to annoy him all the time.
I was talking to oh, I have to. We're going to be collaborating with them.
Cool roadmaps.
Oh yeah, you want to see that action?
That looks familiar. Other slide. That's like the mention we got into too. All the actors.
Yeah. Except the top page on colors. Other like words.
We should take the stakeholder, you know, like guiding all those
Sort of steak though.
Yeah.
Like a wooden
No, or
steak.
yeah, wooden steak or meat steak.
Yeah.
Both.
No,
Both.
when we were talking about it,
The whole discussion. Or put a quote on it. 3% minutes later.
She's the voice of the project.
Oh, when is she? Oh, that's the one. Yeah. All right. Yeah. The one who's outside.
Yeah, that's very I'm just like neurotically going over Sandy's presentation slide by slide. No big deal.
Don't take the wireless microphones because those are very useful.
You look so professional.
No, but it's nice because you can phone around. Local thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know. Trying to figure out what
Yeah,
Maybe I'll start with manual.
What's wrong, Yark?
Just trying to see if I can get it advanced by.
The clicker.
Okay. So let me see if it. I'll just do it manually. So I'm going to talk about the work we are doing on commons of trying
Yark,
to.
Mike.
Microphone.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to talk about the work we are doing on commons, trying to convert, start using Wikidata and import stuff from commons infoboxes to Wikidata. And so kind of infoboxes on commons, they serve many purposes. We're trying to preserve metadata. Many files that come from various blame institutions, which they are very rich in metadata. And when we are uploading, we try to preserve it all. So, that's one of the functions of an Infobox. A presentation of the data, we try to present the data in the most kind of simple, reliable, readable way. Internationalization, Commons serves people that speak many, many languages. I mean, if you come to Commons from German Wikipedia, you should see as much of the text in German. If you come from Russian, it should be in Russian. So our goal is to show the pages in the language of the viewer. And machine readability, no comments on that. Metadata is stored in variety of templates. So we have, information templates, which is used like for probably, 30, 40 million pages, It's using, that's for, most people are used to that, is for user-generated photographs. Artwork is for artworks, artifacts, other objects. We have a creator templates for authors, institution templates for galleries, museums, other institutions. We have book templates, authority control templates, locations for coordinates, taxonomic templates. We have templates for everything. And people were curating and handcrafting those templates, for the last 15 years. And there's just a lot of metadata stored in the text format right now. So here's just some examples. This is a page from Web Gallery of Art, and it has some information about the painting. When we move it to Commons, we try to preserve as much information as possible. So we have a creator template. We have here institution template and information that are relevant to a specific painting, including accession numbers and things like that. Internationalization. So this is the same page, but what it's going to look like if you came from English-speaking Wikipedia, or maybe English is your preferred language, and German-speaking. So the same page is going to show a totally different text depending on your language preference. And that's something that Commons is pretty serious about trying to make sure that it happens. So kind of behind the scenes, how does it happen? Seem like there's millions of little templates that are doing a lot of work translating. So some part is translated through creator templates, something might be from some ISO dates, city templates, technique. A lot of templates are doing work of, some of it's coming from Translate Wiki, and they come from everywhere. And probably now some of them are also coming from Wikidata, which I didn't mark those. Also, how do we use Infoboxes? So, like if you have information template or artwork template, quite often they are just in a single file. So it's like you just have Infobox right there in a file, and that's where it lives. But in other cases, when the same information is used in multiple files, we put it in a template, which then is transcoded into multiple files. So we have a large collections of Infobox templates. We have creator templates. We have 30,000 of them. They have their own namespace. We have institution templates, about 4,500 of them. They also have namespace, their own namespace. Book templates were the first, and we have about 2,000, and they're just in a regular template namespace. And artwork templates, I was really shocked that we have about 12,000 of them stored in a bizarre place, which is category namespace. Don't ask me how that happened, but it's weird.
The French like it.
French, okay.
Yeah.
I think every grave on some cemetery have
Yeah.
their own. So I think a lot of that 12,000 is every grave on some cemetery in Paris. But so all that system was created way before Wikidata came along. So those collections of Infoboxes, they served for years kind of the same function as what Wikidata does now. It's a mass metadata storage, which then can be accessed from files. So now the effort is trying to kind of use the current technology. This whole system of cascading templates with translations and the whole thing become really esoteric. Some of the templates become so complicated that once the last guy that figured out how to write that template retired 5 years ago, nobody could touch it for like years, because it's just huge block of hundreds of characters that make no apparent sense. But if you touch any one of them, the whole thing breaks. So we're kind of and we were having all kinds of problems with reaching the template extension limits and things like that. So we're really happy to be rescued, by 2013 developments First was introduction of Lua programming language that brought some sanity to coding that stuff. And then introduction of Wikidata. It took some years for Wikidata to be actually useful on Commons because only in April 2016, where arbitrary access was enabled on Commons, finally we were able to actually start using Wikidata on Commons. And since then, much of the work was done rewriting templates to use Lua and accessing Wikidata. So kind of a new frontier. So Wikidata can simplify three of the purpose of the Infoboxes. I mean, it helps with internationalization. A lot of places, let's say, if I have a name of a city, Paris, and I would like to show it in Russian language, we no longer use local translation tables as we did for years. We just fetch the data for, fetch the label in Russian for word Paris from Wikidata. It's much simpler and much less to maintain. Machine readability, that's definitely helps. And preserving metadata. Much of the metadata about people, places, institutions, books, artworks, it can be stored on Wikidata, which really serves as a central repository by all the project. Merging it in benefits Wikidata, because there is a lot of stuff that in the last 15 years people were handcrafting on Commons. And the benefit to Commons that once we move it, once more people look at it, the quality improves. There is also less maintenance for us on Commons. And once you start using Wikidata, it greatly simplifies creation of new templates. So parallel to all the efforts on conversion of Infobox's template to use Wikidata, we also do a lot of work of importing stuff from Commons to Wikidata. So kind of stages of moving metadata to Wikidata. First is to link Commons pages with Wikidata. We often using mix and match. Thank you, Magnus, for that tool. And then we store Commons page in Wikidata properties, and we also need to store Wikidata code in Commons pages. There is Commons pages are not connected to Wikidata through side links because there's only one side link allowed per project, and it's usually pointing to some random page. It's either gallery page or category page, or you never know. So the only reliable connections from Wikidata to Commons are through properties. And so each page, if it wants to fetch data from Wikidata, it has to have a Q code. We rewrite Infoboxes in Lua to allow pulling data from Wikidata, but we also compare the data that we have stored locally with the data that we pull from Wikidata. And if they are the same, we just remove it from Commons, it's redundant. The final users don't see any difference. Where if it's missing on Wikidata, then we try to move it to Wikidata. And if it's present in both, but different, then we try to, humans have to look at it and reconcile. We found places where, there was a different gender, of some people, and most of the time Commons was wrong, but not always. And gender is something that you don't see sources for often. Like, quick statements, another great tool by Magnus here. It's a kind of life-saving tool, and we use it all the time. It reads our list of text commands and add statements to Wikidata items. And I kind of use it in two different modes, which one is kind of batch mode, kind of covered in a previous presentation, I do a lot of like, you can do a database query, or you can just use some tools to scrape information from the templates you are working with, and create quick statement commands, and do a big batch. But I also do like an individual template mode. So the Lua code will detect that some local template has information which is missing from Wikidata, and then create the template itself creates a proper a quick statement command, which are then embedded URL, and then we have a little icon here that someone created for me, very nice, I think. And if you click on it, it just uploads it to Wikidata. And if I have time on the end, I'll show an example of how that works. Kind of progress. So we work on a lot of templates. City template was something that we have hundreds and hundreds of templates that just translate the name of every city that anybody might want to use. We converted, long time to just 100%, just pull it from Wikidata. Authority control, that was it's a big project at some point. We're like 100% done with Lua code, and we are, we have 130,000 links to Wikidata, and we match about 98% of pages. There are still like 2,000 pages that we have authority control. But there are no matches on Wikidata, and if someone would like to create them, I mean, if they have VIF identifiers, they are probably worthy to go on Wikidata. So it's just looking for some attention there. Right now, a lot of work on creator templates. The Lua code is always changing because there is always something else that can be pulled out of Wikidata, or discovering some other ways that people are storing some, I thought I already know how people store, date of burial, and suddenly there's like, oh, a lot of people do it other way, so always discovering new ways that people are doing the same thing many different ways. Institution template, there's no work didn't start on it yet, but it's so similar to Creator that we hope to use a lot of work there. Artwork, the multi-chill, Martin was doing a lot of work with some of old painting project, and he adding metadata for hundreds of thousands of paintings, and many of them, like last time I checked, was 60,000, maybe more now, which was still only about 6% of files on Commons that use our template. So there is a lot of work to be done there. And Lua code, I think some work started on it, but no serious push. Book extension, looking for some attention. I think Wikisource crowd probably, I don't know if they are matching stuff with Wikidata, but if they, we will either be pulling stuff from the book templates on Commons or from Wikisource. Object locations, and every city and town have coordinates, and we have a now code to just pull them from Wikidata using Lua, and we have about 30,000 links, and there's a lot of work on reconciling those. I'll have more information about that. Also, there is work with there is a template VN, which stands for vernacular names, which doesn't. It's common names for critters and different organisms. So that one is also start using Wikidata to be fetching it, but I'm less familiar with that effort. So kind of a little deep dive to a few of those. Authority control, again, used about 140 times. A lot of categories have them, many creator and institution pages have them. We match most of them through Wikidata, and we start adding like a Wikidata parameter to all those templates, and then just moving everything to Wikidata. For a while, we were using this kind of interesting system that if we have a local values and Wikidata values, then the templates will show up that will allow us to compare them. So if it was one color, there were matching values. If the commons value was different, then Wikidata values will show both, so they can be visually compared. And back then, I didn't figure out how to do a direct URL, so I was doing quick statements and then copying and pasting them to add quickly to the. But now it's a much better way of doing it. So there is still about, as I was saying, 2,500 authority control that needs to be added. Creator is templates is a lot of work happening right now on. So it allows creation, that template allows creation of so-called creator templates, which are specialized for individual people, and they have a basic information about people. So kind of like people Infobax on Wikipedia. We have about 30,000 of them, and they are used on almost 2 million pages. So that's a lot of pings to Wikidata, by the way. So we matched, about 95% of them, and Lua code that closely mimics the current template. So this is a page for Cezanne before, and I have like over 100 lines of wiki code. And now this is the full wiki code of how it can be done, and to show this page. By the way, after I did this presentation, I noticed that the dates were different. So that's a way to actually find the problems, which could be either one side or the other side. It's for humans to figure out. Challenges that seem to be the most worthy presentation. So some of the things that we're running into. Lack of references. So commons templates, there is a field for references, but it was like one reference for a whole template. And so it was rarely used. So kind of on commons, we didn't have references. And a lot of Wikidata statements also don't have references. So if you have mismatching dates, then suddenly reconciling the differences becomes pretty hard, because you have to start diving into pages and so on. It's a lot of manual work. So any bot can start adding references to existing statements. That would be great. It would really help with some of those things. Sometimes, with dates, Commons have templates for storing kind of imprecise dates, and it's a little bit different than Wikidata way. So on Commons we can say, spring of 1993. On Wikidata, at the moment, I don't know how to do that. Or we can say first half of 18th century. And maybe there is a way, if someone knows how to do it, let me know. Another things that we run into is places of birth and death on Commons are usually with the city precision. On Wikidata, it's the highest precision you can have. I mean, if you know specific house, room, hospital room, street, people, there is an item for it, people will gonna put a specific street. And I don't want to show a street where someone was born, I want to show a city. So and then it's hard to start walking up and down pulling items for a next level up and checking, hey, is it a city maybe level or? So don't know how to do that very well yet. But I have seen some in the previous presentation codes that might be able to do that. Dates on Wikidata come from many sources, and especially very early uploads, I don't think they were able to do a date precision, so they were doing year precision uploads. And now on commons, we have day precision. So it's kind of unclear of how to compare and pick which one would be better if there is no indicator of preference. And compare the quality of references. Maybe one reference is uploaded from English Wikipedia, and that's the best we have. I don't know. It's kind of unclear how to do that. And multiple ways of model the same thing. I mean, we have a burial date or work period. There are several ways that people figure out how to encode it in Wikidata that are kind of competing, and have to dig them all out and start writing Lua code that can recognize multiple ways of doing the same thing. Lately, I ran into problem of nationality. I actually proposed a new property for nationality, because the current one, which is country of citizenship or ethnic group, I mean, they often match nationality concept, but quite often not. So I also had a problem with location coordinates for if you have location coordinates for a specific statue, which is standing in the middle of the square, and it's kind of a meter precision, that's great. But if you have a location coordinates for France, and it's a meter precision, and you have a different location for on commons and on Wikidata, then you have to somehow recognize that actually both of them are right, and we don't have to worry about it. And kind of trying to segue to the next talk, which is going to be on structured data. So information templates is the one that is used by the most Infoboxes on commons. I mean, it's used on 37 million files. And in the future, that data, we're not going to be, we're going to try to move that data from those Infoboxes to, it's not going to go into Wikidata, it's going to go into a new thing that's going to be structured data on commons. And hopefully the lessons learned from migrating the current Infoboxes to Wikidata will be helpful when we start that process. So that's kind of the end of my talk, but maybe if I still have, how many minutes I have? 2 minutes? I think that's enough time to show you a thing that I find really cool. Here is a list of the pages that are missing. They have a link from Commons to Wikidata, but they don't have link from Wikidata to Commons. So now the template like that will show up with a little arrow. And if you click on that arrow, it just creates quick statements and interacts with the you run it, and now it's added.
Nice.
So added another one. So that's, I'm done. Thanks.
I'm just going to go 3 different.
Okay, go for it.
It's a prettier version. As pretty as I can. Here's of what we're basically He's just got a different. I don't know.
You're heading in or out? There's 3, yeah. It's up to you.
It's fine here, the ground. I like it.
There's 2 seats here. Why don't you sit? Okay. You can take a seat here. 1 second. Go quick. We actually could put a few more over there. We can sit right in front here. With archives and the pre-conference, I did a Wikidata tutorial. Yeah, but yeah, it was archive. Yeah, I'm like doing all things Wikidata, so I'm like doing all the video for the Wikidata. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Because to me, it's like this is a turning point year. Wikidata, it's suddenly part of everything, especially this. Like Commons can be based on it. Right. All these guys. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have I told you how grateful I am? Thank you.
Welcome everyone. Have seats. Nice to meet you all. I think some of you have attended the previous sessions by Jarek and by Amanda. Some of you have not. I was going to ask, who in the room here does not really know very well what structured data on commons is about? Excellent, because I have slides for you. The other ones can have a little nap. Who in the room is working on the team of structured data, like working for Wikimedia Deutschland, Wikimedia, the Wikimedia Foundation? Hands up. I might ask you to answer some questions too. I'm sorry. If there are very specific questions coming, I might give the mic to my colleagues as well. Hello everyone, my name is Sandra. I'm very newly hired by the Wikimedia Foundation, actually for 1 month, as the very new community liaison for the project Structured Data on Commons. For this project I will probably be in the next, if I stay around, I'm sure I will, it has been fun so far, but no, I'm probably going to be one of the more visible faces of the project. I'm going to be the person who, talks a lot with the community about what's going on, and also with GLAM organizations. So I have a bit of a mixed position in the sense that I'm both a community liaison, but I'm also going to talk a lot with cultural institutions about what they are interested in terms of what's being developed for structured data on commons. Now, does this button work? Yes, it does. It's also always magic. We also have an Etherpad. I'm going to try to talk for 20 minutes, and then there's going to be time for questions. So if someone in the room wants to volunteer to take some notes, there's also a link to the Etherpad on the page about this session. So if you want to find it, you can find it. Also, I want to promote an impromptu breakout session that we planned later today, where we will actually already show some very, very, very extremely preliminary designs for search and editing. And it's the idea that these very, 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 very preliminary designs are like tools that everyone can shoot on, so that we know better what the community actually wants. And please come to our session. It's this afternoon, 4 p.m. for those who do not understand this time thing. And it's on 7th floor, level 2, which is somewhere below. Okay. I'm first going to give a bit of background. Why structured data on commons? Actually, Jarek already gave an excellent presentation about it, and I'm going to repeat him a little bit. And then I'm going to move on to saying, okay, what are we doing now and what's coming, and how soon do you have to expect stuff to happen, and how to stay in touch. Now, Wikimedia Commons. I started out as a volunteer there as well, so we have now reached, I think yesterday I made a screenshot, 40,900,000 really usable files on there, which is, I think, really kind of amazing. Our whole community that did this together, I think I contributed like 1,000 of those. And we have very high quality software where we have our daily featured pictures, we have all these, I think, hundreds of thousands of files contributed also by partners, through contests like Wikimania, so it's an amazing resource. But even before I personally knew about the idea of structured media commons, with my own background as working on databases and image stuff and things like that, I always had this idea that this is an untapped goldmine in the sense that it's an amazing resource and it's not used enough. There's stuff that could be better about commons to make it, shine even more. One of the things that could be better, this is a recent featured image that I just, while preparing this presentation, took from Commons by Diego Dalso, one of the very prolific amateur photographers, volunteer photographers on Commons, made of fortress in Iran. If you go to this image's Commons page, I did a little exercise of switching my language, pretending I'm an Iranian. I don't speak Farsi, but I switched my interface language to Farsi. And then the first thing you notice is that the categories of this image are not translated to Farsi. The title of the image is not in Farsi, of course. So even if you in Farsi are starting to search for an image of this fortress that you have in your country, you will not find this image. You will not be able to browse comments in your language. If you look at the description, the Infobox, the information template, in this case, is it an information template? I'm not sure because it's in Farsi.
It's
Sorry? It is information. So not photograph. Then we do, because it's been a featured image, we do have some extensive text descriptions in Spain, in English, and in Polish, but not in Farsi. And even because of your work, creator templates, we do have a proper creator template for the photographer, which is already going in the direction of structured, but apparently the label for his name is not in Farsi yet. Which of course I'm sure will be corrected. I see a hand in here.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment about the categories not being searchable in Farsi. They're
Yes.
not really searchable in English either.
Okay.
Good point.
You said that. Yeah.
Lightly spoken.
Well, yeah. Actually, yesterday we had a session about that, and we had some examples. Yeah. So, what we also would like to have, or that would make it so much better, is make it easier to search. And I'm a search nerd. I work I come from cultural institutions, cultural backgrounds, and one of the image databases that I use a lot is this one. It's a Dutch image database. It's called RKD Images. And it has this amazing search function if you type in Rembrandt, and then you can drill down to paintings that he made in a specific decade, and then on a specific medium, and then you can go to only the portraits of himself. I love that. If you are on Commons, I challenge everyone to search for the Wikimedia Commons logo on Commons. Just try it. No further comments. We want more things, but one of the other things that we would really like to do or have on Commons is to make Commons more reusable by external parties. And that's not just reusing one single image in the case of, let's say, if a newspaper that wants to use a free image from Commons and that they attribute it correctly, right? But also on a larger scale in the sense that we would really like to have, I think, developers, cultural institutions also being able to reuse on a larger scale hundreds, thousands of images on Commons. Researchers to be able to work with all the images and to analyze them, to work with the data behind them. This example is called Krotos. It's a tool created by Shonakon, a French volunteer, and it uses it's kind of an interface on top of Commons, but it's kind of a mashup between Commons and Wikidata. So there's lots of potential, but I think he had to do quite a lot of cumbersome stuff to make this happen. We want to make this easier, right? Also for external parties, not just for our own volunteers, but also for grants, companies, etc. So let's make it structured. And I think what Jarek is doing is, I think, a first step in that. But I think we can even have a step further in the sense that what we want to do with structured data on commons is, in fact, add the power and the technology that's behind Wikidata to add real, like inbuilt structure into Wikidata. So that in the future, and this is like a very, very, very early, like 2-3 years old mockup that I'm reusing, that we have a file page with actually in the same vein as Wikidata, structured data behind it. That's why. A bit of history behind this is, I think, I've seen this being mentioned. I haven't checked it yet, I'm not a commons historian, but I've always seen discussions about this, and apparently some people have seen examples of this, discussions about multilingual categories, about more structuring, going back to 2004. Templates, well, Jarek, you gave many examples of that. We use these kind of custom information templates, like artwork, like book, like photographs, to try to get to some kind of structuring. And this is actually an example that Pierre Celine, who left the room, gave to me. It's a very custom-made ethnographical object template that was created. So we have many, many, many examples of custom templates that were made to insert some kind of structure that matches like the data sources where images come from. We've had many examples of projects, also community-led projects, where there was some very strong wish to integrate structure. Wikilove's Monuments has a huge database behind it. GLAM projects, of course, work with institutions that themselves work with databases. So we have upload tools that try to integrate also some kind of structure. I don't know if some of you have ever used the GlamWiki toolset. It's kind of a tool with which you can do Helium! Massive uploads with structure in them, or at least a very, very strong attempt to structure them. More recently, Pattypen, with this logo, has been developed with which you can use a spreadsheet with metadata to import images in Wikidata. So all this is kind of a bit of prehistory to the project. And in 2012, a little project was born. This year it's turning 5. I don't know if there are many. I see some people in this picture. The Wikidata community has also matured quite a bit. So I think the time is right for doing this, because with Wikidata, I'm also a very active Wikidata volunteer myself. We've reached a lot of experience with modeling stuff, and I think that will help. We hope that will help a lot with transitioning commons to a more structured environment. What actually makes this possible, that we can actually start working on this now, is a grant that the foundation has received. I think in the beginning of this year it was announced, January, we received a grant to hire people like me and a few others for the team so that we can actually get started. Now what's happening, Sandra? Well, what's happening is the program runs for 3 years. This is the first year. For who do we do this? Why, for who do we do this? This is a beautiful graph that's just to make it clear that we don't just do this for the Wikimedia community. Of course, the community itself has been wanting this for a very long time, but we also hear lots of voices coming from outside, GLAMs, cultural institutions, research institutions who really want to get this going. So we have a whole mapping out of all the people that are interested in this project, and that we are also going to be in communication with to make sure that they are all involved in the whole process. What's going to happen is that actually the software, this scheme is quite simple in the sense that it shows simplified version of what we will be working on. Is the software that powers Wikidata is called Wikibase. That software will be integrated into Wikimedia Commons, and please correct me if I describe it wrongly, to make possible this, having together a file and structured data. On top of that, we will have better search functionalities and APIs, which is interfaces so that external parties can also do large-scale reuse of the images on the commons for all these different stakeholders. And of course, both the community and external parties can then use and build tools to work with that. So what will happen in the next 3 years? Roughly, the overall planning is that this year, until I think the end of 2017, probably a bit into 2018, we will be working very, very hard on the basic infrastructure for this. So the technology, I really like the base level technology to make this possible. Year 2, 2018, will be more about, okay, deploying all this technology, thank you very much, integrating it into Commons, and probably making it better and better and better. And probably in the second year, and correct me if I'm wrong, already the first conversions will be possible of the old modeled data into the new system. And the third year, we want to go full on with, involving everyone to make as much of the in the old way structured content move towards the new system. Is that a proper description? Okay. So now, new staff was hired, like me, and some other people. We also do have already a very, very, very basic, I really emphasize this, basic first version of how it could work. To use some difficult words, it's called Federation and Multi-Content Revisions. What that means is we already have like a prototype running on labs, thanks to the awesome Wikidata team, that makes it possible to already have some kind of linking between the structured data and an image. It's not yet integrated in the same page yet. Am I saying it correctly? Yes, I am. I'm always happy when data exists. And multi-content revision is about if you change a page that has both like an image in it and some templates, wiki text, and also some structured data, and you change only a part of it, that you can watch the whole and that you can follow up on the whole. So it's like integrating that. We're also doing design research. We are doing interviews. That's actually Jonathan Morgan, and I'm not sure if he's in the... Hey, Jonathan! We haven't spoken yet. Hello!
It's good to see you in real life.
Yes. Yeah. Hi. Jonathan is doing actually, I think, a great job. I haven't seen your latest work because I've been on vacation. But he's actually doing both interviews with people from cultural institutions who are, themselves users of these mass upload tools that I showed you earlier, but he's also interviewing very active Commons users. So if you feel yourself, you would like to share some experiences that you have in terms of working with templates, your thoughts about structured data, or against or for it, get in touch with Jonathan.
Yes, I'll be standing here at the end of the presentation, and I'll be furiously taking down names.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe we can meet at the 4 o'clock.
Yes. Also.
I will also do that for you.
Yeah. Cool. So this is just a quick screenshot of what Federation looks like. You actually have to check it out yourself. You have to click on these links when I've uploaded the presentation to Commons. But it's just a very basic way of showing you can now have an image which is connected to structured data that now still looks very much like Wikidata, but who knows, it might look different. We don't know that yet. So this is a first roadmap. Actually, after Wikimania, our team is getting together for 2 days to decide together what we actually will be working on and how long it will take. But we assume the general gist of this is that at least for the end of this year and probably the first half of next year, we will try to have the first technology ready. How you can help as a volunteer community member? There's a lot of input that we need for the project, really. We really hope that as many people as possible will jump in and will join the conversation, because it's very hard for us to decide what to develop if we don't know what the community wants and needs. So we need your input. And actually, Amanda asked me, give us some links, but there's like a missing link, which is the project page is still very outdated. So the first thing I'm going to be working on is to update the project page so that there are places where you can do these things. But first we need your input on what you want and need from this project. My role will be to structure this conversation a lot, so that it's not just all kinds of ideas flying around, but that people find their way in giving input and being around. One thing that we already know that is going to be very important is there are many people working on bots and tools that involve Wikimedia Commons, that work on Wikimedia Commons, and that do all kinds of stuff from categorization to, I don't know, mass edits, whatever. And probably many, if not all of these tools and bots will be affected by the changes to structured data on commons. So it's one of the things we want to do from very early on is inventorize who does which tools. There are probably already pages that have overviews of that, to get in touch with as many people as possible and hear how we can work best together to make the transition as smooth as we can. I already get lots of questions about how shall we model these new files, will everything come from Wikidata? Will we also have some metadata data on the commons? And will we have still templates? And will there still be categories? And that's entirely up to you guys, the community, and me. If I put my volunteer hat on, I might also join that discussion as a volunteer. But the data modeling is not something that we are starting yet now, because we first need the technology in place before we can actually really see what's have to happen. We do have some basic ideas, but there, for instance, about licensing, I'm sure there will be questions about that. We still don't know very well yet. Will that be on Commons? Will that be on Wikidata? Yeah, these are the hard questions that we as a community will have to talk about in the next years. And then, of course, during and after that process, the whole bulk of the 40 million files will be migrated, and it will probably take more than 3 years. It might take 10 years even. For the backlog of yeah, I think
we're
that's
still working on the migration of files uploaded or
yes,
information template was added.
exactly.
And they just don't have
Exactly.
working last 10 years.
Yeah.
People on adding information templates
Indeed.
still thousands of files.
So
Yes.
just to interject this, so I wrote some demo code. So I wrote some experimental code just to see how bad this change is going to be. And obviously I can't produce the final data model because we don't know what this will look like. But what I can produce is some machine-readable intermediate format that can then be converted into the final model, and I can. So my code can say if it understands a file description page completely, or if there's some part of it it doesn't understand. And it's very basic right now, but even right now it understands about 70% of all file description pages and can convert these completely automatically into structured data. I think with some work that can be pushed up to 80 or maybe 90% rather quickly. So it's not going to be a complete mess, just a partial mess.
It wouldn't be without madness, right? I was going to say something very smart. I mean, dinner. No. There's going to be pain, people. I hear everyone. I'm really happy to hear that everyone really wants this, and that there's a lot of support for this. And I'm also here because I really love this project. But it will be hard at some point. So let me just say that. But we will get through this together. So how to get involved for now, while our website is still a mess, or while the project pages are still a mess. I think the best thing, if you want to stay informed about structured data on commons, the best thing you can do is subscribe to the newsletter. Because from now on, one of my tasks is to send out regular, I won't spam you, but regular, whenever it's appropriate, regular newsletters to your talk page about what's happening in the project, where input is needed, where everyone can help. stuff that's happening in the team, stuff that we're working on, etc. Watch the talk page of the project, because there are many questions now that are centrally coming in there. Watch the Fabricator board if you're into that. Email us. I'm Sandra. This is Amanda, our program manager, and this is Alex. You can email us all and.
Hey guys, stand up because we can't see you.
Yay! 5 minutes for questions. And or questions or remarks or additions. Yes.
Before we go into the data structure and modeling and everything details, let me have three very basic questions to understand how this works. So the Wikidata uses Wikibase extension. Will the new Wikidata, structured data on Commons use the same extension, or it will be a new extension for it? This is the first question. The second question. Will this be a completely separate project from Wikidata, or somehow merge into one? The third question: how can we separate the data between the two Wikidata and structured data? Will the structured data only contain the description page, the content, but for example, Wikilab's Monuments just migrating to Wikidata right now, and the identifiers on the description page, so it will be the structured data. Should it be moved to the new project or leave to the old ones? Is it a new developer team? It is a
Alright,
so because the Wikidata is based on Wikimedia Deutschland
Yes.
team, and this is now in the foundation. It's another team, right?
So we're going to work on this together. We have, at Wikimedia Deutschland, we have been working on a lot of the backend technology already, and we will continue that. And the foundation will help with that and build more of the front-end APIs, search, and so on. To your questions about the underlying software, it will be Wikibase plus some additions to that to make it usable for multimedia content. And the idea is that you have on Wikidata the items and properties, because you want to use the same vocabulary across all of Wikimedia, because it makes varying much easier and so on. And then you will describe the file on Commons using those items and properties. So the actual statements like this image shows a lighthouse will be on Commons, but this image shows is a property on Wikidata, and the lighthouse is an item on Wikidata, as a rough idea at this point.
Okay, so if I understand well, all this data will be in Wikidata.
No.
No.
The data will be on Commons, but it will use concepts from Wikidata.
Like if you have a picture of a lighthouse, on Commons there will be the description, this is a lighthouse, but the concept of the lighthouse will come from Wikidata. So you don't have to store what a lighthouse is on Commons. You just have the link to the concept.
Basically, if you would enter the search field for, okay, I'm seeing a lighthouse, and that you would do on Commons, and then your autocomplete would come from Wikidata, you could say. Like that's the easiest way to represent it, I guess, if you're less of a data nerd.
It's like the creator templates now. The data is already sitting on Wikidata.
Yeah.
You're working on Commons.
Also, since I didn't have a question and answer session, if someone have a question for me, I'll also.
For 1 minute?
Yeah, or afterwards, I don't mind staying after.
Last question for whomever, and otherwise come to the session this afternoon. I see you have there. Maybe you can shout.
Okay, so yeah. Okay, so I'm just wondering, like, how long has this team been together? And how long have you been working on it so far? For how far you've come already?
So the Wikidata team has been working on this since at least 2013, if not 14, since 2014. The foundation had at that point kind of collaborated with the Wikidata team to get a shared understanding of how that work would go. It was not resourced at that time.
But that was just Wikidata, right?
No, this was to model, to work in this direction. And then when we got the funding, or we got the opportunity for the funding from Sloan, we made sure that both the foundation and the Wikidata team understood what would be involved in this. And then we began compiling the work, and the team has been assembling since January. So we've been pulling people together, and the full team will be meeting, like I said, Tuesday and Wednesday, to make sure that the work that's already been happening from the work is shared across.
I think it's just the preliminary data model that we worked on in the Wikidata team, and then working on supporting federation, so having multiple or having commons be its own wiki-based repository at the same time, accessing Wikidata. So it's just some of the groundwork, but that's all I think.
Do you have a useful follow-up for this, Daniel, or can we release people to their food?
You don't get any food before I talk. That's very German of you.
I'll try to make this quick. It's really not that there will be a one single dedicated developer team for this project, because it's really multiple aspects have different developer teams working on it. So the Wikidata team will be working on actually storing the data structure and integrating the repository and commons with repository and Wikidata. The multimedia team will be working on, for instance, creating structured data on upload, updating the upload wizard, this kind of things, right? So from the editors team, we'll probably have input on integrating this with the editing functionality on the page. So it's really a project that spans multiple aspects of the site and multiple developer teams.
Which is also why it took so long to get even to this point.
Yes, and also why we have Amanda to coordinate all this.
Yeah, she's keeping all of us focused.
In line.
How about you can stay around and ask us questions if you like, but also go get
You are.